ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to show you this frankly terrifying graph which has been making the rounds from the UK Office of National Statistics at the moment, which really highlights the replacement that has taken place as a concerted effort, really looking at over the last 5 or so years. But when you look at this graph, ladies and gentlemen, it's UK net migration by nationality. It goes all the way back to 2012. And it shows net migration. So when you see bars going up over the line of 0, it means there's net positive migration. If you were to see average bars going down, then that means there's net emigration. And it splits it into EU, non-EU, and British categories. I'm just going to bring this up on screen for you in a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully it'll work. And I just want you to have a look at this image, which is going to be coming on screen any moment. Coming on screen now. Let me know what you see. Let me know what you see, ladies and gentlemen, particularly on the right-hand side of the graph. So if you are listening, ladies and gentlemen, and not watching, you're looking at the graph, and across all of the years from 2012 up until about June, is it June 2020, thereabouts, so March 2020, it's roughly around there. You're seeing a steady influx of predominantly EU people from the EU. Now, one thing to note, however, that is still of concern is the fact that there's still a lot of British people leaving year on year. There's net negative British emigration year on year, all the way going back from 2012 onwards. It's a very concerning thing. But once you get to that point, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see on the screen, it goes absolutely insane. It goes absolutely insane. So apologies if you see me looking down. Obviously, I'm looking down at this on my laptop. From that point onwards, it just shoots up, and you're looking at non-EU. So think of the Middle East, think of India, think of all of these other places that are outside of the EU, right? You've got Russia, you've got all of these other nations, right? It has absolutely skyrocketed. So whereas the predominant source of migration before would have been from the EU, which at least you could say we are relatively close to in terms of our ethnic breakdown, right? In terms of our ethnicity, now you wonder why things look so different in the modern days, because they have literally ramped up migration from all of these other areas of the world. You wonder why London and major cities look the way they are and have changed the way they are. This is why. This is why. You got to think, these people who are coming here from other areas of the world, they're not going to be leaving faith behind. They're not going to be leaving their customs behind or anything like that. And when you bring them in large enough number, there's not even the, outnumbering, not that we should necessarily be thinking about it in this way, but the number one thing that you really have if you want to enforce your will on somebody as a group, as a tribe versus tribe, say, is number. When they get to a high enough number, not only do they not have any reason to adopt our customs, but they can then very easily, for the most part, enforce their customs on us. And that's what we've seen. So we've seen with the fact that now we have 85 Sharia courts in this country, where, again, it's a parallel legal system. It's a parallel legal system. People always say that it's not two-tier. We literally have 2 parallel legal systems in this country. For one set of people, you have one legal system. For another set of people, you have another. Which you cannot have a cohesive society. Don't have a society unless you have everybody cohering around a common set of morals, a common set of principles which you make laws out of. The minute you diverge from that, the minute especially you introduce a parallel system to that, of course you're going to get conflict. Because what if the one side is being treated more leniently for the same crimes that you would get tried under if you're different, if you're of a different ethnicity under the other legal system? Again, we often see that the penalties for these things, especially with the Sharia law, is a lot more barbaric than anything we would go for. You have instances where rulings in Pakistan for when a family member has been raped. If, say, your sister gets raped, it's not just a case of the rapist goes to prison. No, the sentence is that the rapist sister has to get raped by you. That's the kind of stuff that we're talking here, ladies and gentlemen. That's the kind of stuff that we're talking here. We're talking going back to the fucking 6th century here. And we're going to pretend as there's nothing wrong. We're going to pretend as there's nothing wrong. But we have to remember is that to a certain extent, ladies and gentlemen, we have to be concerned about the ethnic breakdown of these things purely because humans are naturally tribal. Humans are naturally tribal and sectarian. You saw in the case of, at least in my opinion, the Ricky Jones trial. The Ricky Jones trial, where I think it was relatively clear, based on the demographic breakdown of the area where the trial was held, there's a very good chance we basically saw the equivalent of the O.J. Simpson trial. Obviously, nobody was actually murdered, but there was threats to murder, and it was all on camera. The evidence all pointed to it, but the jury said that he was not guilty anyway, and he got off scot-free. It's by the fact that his crime was literally on video. So see, now this is something that if you're a native British person, I'm sorry, I know this may offend your liberal sensibilities and all the rest of it, you do need to wake up to this, because it is going to affect you. You'll start shouting at me all of these things, you're racist, you're this, you're that. It won't matter, because it will come for you soon, because they see you in the same way. In fact, they see you as something akin to a useful idiot, as I'll show you a little bit later on, how I believe he goes by the name Imam for Peace. Now, later on in the show, we'll go through a video. He's talking with Dinesh D'Souza, and he says about how he'll use particularly the left. He would always vote left when he was a radical Islamist, because it would enable those kinds of activities, right? Because the left will cheer these things on. In fact, we got to stop using the term. One of the things I was watching recently that really made me realize we got to stop using the term in the way that we do, left and right, is because the things that are being brought in under the left banner are just pure insanity and disgusting things, right? Instead of calling them paedophiles, call them minor attracted persons, ethnic replacement, all of these other things. It's not legitimate in any way, but by calling them the left, we kind of legitimize them to a certain extent. Like, if you imagine there's this political spectrum, there's this straight line, if you will, and on the one side you have the right, which is just like the, moral goods and how everyone, the ideals of how things should be. In the middle then, the center, the perfect center point where you basically don't believe anything, it's just pure nihilism, essentially. And then everything to the left is going further and further to the opposite of the good, basically. It's one way you could sort of think about it in the way that it's manifested nowadays. Again, I suppose in a way it manifests kind of sometimes as a horseshoe. A lot of things, both sides tend to love socialism when they are the ones that get to be wielding the socialist sword, should we say. But again, Raymond Ibrahim was a great person to explain this. I was watching one of his videos, and it's like, we need to stop using the term like leftist and left, because it legitimizes them. It almost gives them a seat at the table where they don't even belong, right? Because a lot of the things we're dealing with ideas and people, when you, like the thing that Charlie Kirk exposed, the reason why, again, they couldn't contend with his ideas, they were exposing in a way how immature and how poorly thought out and how really bad their ideas were, and would expose them in many ways for the children that they were, because they had been indoctrinated. It wasn't necessarily any fault of their own. They'd been indoctrinated into these things, and their developmental processes have been deliberately stunted, because they don't actually want good thinking individuals that can think for themselves. No, the people who are running institutions, etc., just want good little worker robots that toe the line. So it's not necessarily their fault, but it exposed them for the immature, childlike process that they have, which when you saw people crashing out, when you saw people just throwing names and actually throwing things at Charlie, it's exactly the way that a child would react. And a child, you don't give them a seat at the adult table, you make them sit at the kiddie table. So maybe we should stop using the term leftist and left to delegitimize these people. That's maybe something that we should do as well, because they enable things like this. This is what they enable, right? I'm just going to have a coffee at the moment, ladies and gentlemen. Please don't judge me for this. Yes, it was bought for me, and yes, it does say best dog dad ever on it. Don't judge me for it. Anyway, judge me. I don't care. Judge me for it. The coffee tastes great. That's all I care about. Anyway, if you enjoyed that clip, then make sure to go on over to the Voice of the Valleys X page at VOT_Valleys on X. We're also on Instagram at Voice of the Valleys. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon. Godspeed.